Hello Gundam fans and welcome back to another video. Throughout the last year I've been watching the entire Gundam franchise, all the way from the original Gundam series from 1979, all the way to the Witch from Mercury, all the different timelines, all different series, and well, it's time to actually put my honest opinion and review on the actual Gundam franchise as a whole. So throughout the next couple weeks I'm going to be releasing videos on like my top 10 favorites, top 10 worst Gundams, tier listing, trying to rank each of the different Gundam mobile suits, some of the non-Gundam mobile suits, some pilots, you know, videos like that. Maybe even some other videos here and there, maybe some games, I don't know. I just really want to make these videos to kind of put Gundams versus Gundam versus Gundam, basically. To kind of give my honest opinion which ones are better and which ones are not. So, if you're watching this video here, you can definitely see the title, and I will introduce it as is. This is going to be an insert I put at the beginning of each of my videos. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into whatever video this is going to be part of. Alright, and as this title entails, like I said, I insert those things at the beginning just because I don't want to re-record that every single time, but, I am doing today the top 10 worst Gundams. So, I have a feeling people are going to absolutely hate my opinions, but these are only my opinions. If you want to leave your comments down below on your favorite series, don't get too mad, don't get too crazy on me here. Everyone's right to an opinion, so go and express yours down there. No name calling, none of that stuff, because I might offend you with some of my picks here. So, again, I do apologize in advance, but I don't apologize at the same time because, again, my opinions. So, I did make a thing where these had to be just like my top 10 best Gundam series. So, all these series had to be an individual series. They can't be a timeline, they have to be a series. So, I will do a timeline video and do like a top 3 because there's not that many timelines, but still, well, not as many as I once thought there was. But do that more to kind of summarize all the series into a single timeline. These are individual series. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my top 10 worst Gundam series. Alright, in my top 10 spot for the worst Gundam series, I'm only going to be putting so just to make this clear, the higher the number is, the least I hate them. If it's a number 1 spot, I hate it the most. If it's a number 10 spot, it's going towards me either just being neutral on the category of it, instead of hating it, like absolutely despising it. So, make that clear, my number 10 spot is going to be After Work Gundam X. This series right here, I don't absolutely hate this series. It just felt very lackluster. The story was a little confusing at times. The characters, positive note, I really like the wholesomeness of some of the characters, so that's why it's not number 1. Because like the main character had a lot of growth. Tifa was just wholesome through the whole moment through them. Our main captain was actually not the worst, but there were just so many key moments that it felt odd. I could definitely see that they were trying to shorten it down, but also extending it in some portions. And that's just how it felt throughout the series. I can see how it's not a very memorable series, because I went back and reviewed my top 10 tier list for my Gundam suits, and that'll come actually out after this. I'm just recording these as I get them finished, and as I make my mind up, because some things I've been indecisive for, but in release time, I'm making them ahead of time. So I've done my tier list. I actually, spoilers alert for that one, I forgot the Gundam X mobile suits because a lot of it I just forgot about. It wasn't the most fantastic series, so it didn't have much memorable moments. The only thing I remember about it is the main Gundam with the GX, and then the Double X, which were pretty cool mobile suits, I'm not gonna lie. And then of course the wholesome moments with the main character. So that's why it's up in my top 10 worst, just because it wasn't memorable as a whole. It had individual sections that were memorable, but there was nothing that like stood out for me. But it doesn't go in the number 1 spot because it still had some good moments. That's my number 10 spot right there. Alright, in my number 9th spot here on this list, I'm actually going to be... I had to find some things for this top 10, and Gundam Origins. I didn't watch that on my channel, because I did. The series is cursed. Anytime I tried to record it, something would happen. Be a knock at my door, there would be something wrong with the audio when I recorded it. And I'm not a person that goes back and fakes everything. The only time I go back and do extra takes is like for this example. I'm doing these individual takes, so if I make a mistake and don't mention something, or I ramble on about something else, I can go back and just cut it out and just do another one. But I don't do it on my reactions. My reactions are all genuine, and there's nothing that is fake. So that is me seeing it for the first time on camera and giving my actual opinion and reaction at the moment. So, Gundam Origins for me did not get the recording, but as a series, it felt lackluster in a lot of ways. It did help a lot support the original Gundam series. So, but it felt, I don't know, it didn't need 6 episodes. It needed like 3. And I get it, it was 12 if you watch the TV version, but it needed like maybe an hour, maybe make it like a 2-hour movie. It's all it needed. Because it just needed to explain Char and how he got up there, and nothing else needed to be explained. We already understood the plot point of it. But again, it's not super hated. I just did not care for it as a whole. So this one I don't have a whole lot of opinions on. I just, because there wasn't much for me to have an opinion on. That's why it's probably on this list. It just felt like they were milking the franchise in a way. They were like, "Oh, we're running out of UC stuff. We need material, guys. Let's go." One of those series, and there's a lot of them on this list. So that's my number 9 spot with Gundam Origins. Alright, and this is going to be my number 8 spot on this list. And this one right here might upset a lot of people. But for me, remember, these are my opinions. This is how I felt watching it. This is me watching it in 2023. Putting it up against modern day anime. Putting it up against other Gundam series as a whole. So, this one's going to be Zeta Gundam. Zeta Gundam, for me, felt like it wanted to do a lot of things. But due to the age of it, as I've explained in my best Gundam series, I'll explain it here. A lot of these older anime had a hard time portraying and showing what they wanted to actually do, because the storytelling back in the 80s, and especially in middle to early 90s, they just did not have that storytelling aspect down that most anime has today. So I think it's more that I'm more used to like modern day storytelling, so it's a lot more complex, it's a lot more in-depth, you feel a lot more emotions because the environment affects the character a lot more, and so that you feel for that character. In Zeta Gundam, yes, there was a lot with Camille. This one I'm probably going a little bit on about, because this one I have to explain. A lot was going on with Camille, but like these side characters, it was like, cool, I wanted Emma to join up with leave Titan and go with them, and she did. We had 4, an amazing character, but then they were just like the emotions. That one actually, I think they did a little well. That's why this can't be number 1 on this list. Because if they did that, this series would have been a waste and probably been higher up. But they did 4 really well, but then when they did the emotion for Camille, it was sad, but then they cut it off immediately and were like, going back to giant mech fights instantly. No, not giving enough time to actually soak that in. You did have a little bit of aftermath with it, but it wasn't like, by that point you were just ruined. The moment was ruined. Then we had Rosemary, which, another sad moment. That was actually really sad. But still, it did not impact much, because in the storytelling in the 80s, they did not know how to show the impact. It might have also been the art style too, because the art style was very, a lot of people like it, but it just felt like they didn't know how to animate certain things and do certain things. They were still running off of the 10 frames per second kind of thing instead of like a 30 FPS. So there was like moments where I think that messed with it some. I don't know, it's hard to explain in my head, but I just did not feel the emotional appeal of Zeta when I know it was there. That's why it's at least up on this list like this, because it's not number 1, because I at least could tell that they were trying to do something. But what they were trying to do just wasn't effective. So Zeta Gundam drops low because it had so much going for it, and it was such a letdown by the end of it for me. And of course, I watched the anime ending, which I think the compilation movie ending is different, but that ending was just so abrupt. Like, they felt like, oh man, we really need to sum this down into 1 episode, let's go. Now, the other part that this series really lacked on, and why it's still on this list, there's a lot of multiple things. You're thinking, this should be higher. No, a lot of things were great about it. It set up a lot of cool things. In fact, some of the coolest Gundams come from, like, mobile suits. But the big thing was, it still followed the original scheme of, like, Mobile Suit Gundam. Mobile Suit Gundam, I'm going to spoil, is actually, well, I won't spoil it. I'll leave it. You'll see where Mobile Suit Gundam is. Mobile Suit Gundam suffered from this a lot, and even to an even further extent. Every single bit of story in Zeta Gundam needed a single fight to progress the story. Without a fight, like a mobile suit fight or a ship battle or somebody punching somebody, there was no, like, getting to know the characters and having these little side stories with them and actually really feeling the emotional appeal of each of these characters. That's why, I think, like I said, I think that's why 4 was one of the best aspects, because you had that to a point, but then we went back into punch fighting immediately within the next episode. They lasted like 1. And then they went back into punch fighting to just expand that story. So the story was lacking really hard due to the fact that it needed that. That's why Zeta Gundam is number 8 on this list. There's a lot of multiple things, and as you're going to go further and further throughout this list, you're going to see that there's more things that pile up that I thought about whenever I was watching it. I've been watching anime for roughly 15 years now, 12 to 15 years, somewhere in that mark. So that's my number 8 spot. Alright, and for my number 7 spot on this list here, so the number 7 spot on my list here is actually going to be Turn A Gundam. Again, gonna get massive hate because I know people adore this series. But for me, it was so confusing at times. I love the world that it was in, like the way they portrayed the world, but then there were moments where things were just jumping around, people were teleporting from place to place, and overall it felt like this story honestly could have been told in like 20-25 episodes. It didn't need the full 50 episode runtime that it had. It could have been shortened down to about 25 episodes and made it much, much better, because honestly, the majority of this plot was in the last 10 episodes. Because throughout it, we had sprinkles of it, everywhere, all along, pretty much. We had some neat moments with, that's why I said 25 episodes would have been great, because we could have still had the moments with Lauren, doing the whole cross-dressing thing, which was hilarious, and where it gets a lot of the jokes from. And then we still could have had the mech battles and the dynamic between Kudelia, whatever the fuck her name is. There's too many K names in this goddamn franchise, but I can't even say blonde hair girl, because there's two of them. There's Iron-Blooded Orphans, and there's fucking the two Dianas. Fake Diana, and okay, I'm just gonna call her Fake Diana, and then Real Diana. But yeah, Diana, that whole switch up could have been done in like an episode or two, and then went back to it being, a lot of it could have been condensed. And that's what I'm getting at here. So this series really lacked hard for being too long for the story that it told. The ending made me actually cry, which is why, again, it's not super high on this list, but it's still not good on this list. I was mostly confused. There was a lot of times I sat there and I had no idea what was going on. So it's only going there because I love the environment. I love the towns and stuff like that. The people, the interaction in the towns. The ending was fantastic. The fact that it tied in all the other Gundam franchises into a single little ball, or it tried to, which is why it's still docking points because it didn't quite succeed, but it still tried to. And then it lacked in a lot of things that I look for in a series. So I'm sorry if Turn A is your wholesome favorite anime of all time, but for me, it's going to be in my number 7 spot. Alright, so on this list here, we're going to go with my number 6 spot. This number 6 spot is going to be Mobile Suit Gundam Twilight Axis. Twilight Axis for me felt like there was so much that they wanted to tell, and this one suffers from being too short. It felt like the story should have been much longer. I know these were individual 4 to 6 minute episodes, but it felt like it should have been a full series because it really rides off the Char's counterattack era, and it really tried to do some interesting things with the series. But due to how short it was, they had to rush so many things, and it was so confusing. Like, I honestly, there were times when I had an idea what was going on. There's times when it was like, wait, what's going? It's just because they needed moments to explain things, and they didn't have those moments. So the series really lacked, and it had to go this low on the list for my top 10 because it honestly, I don't remember all of it. I just remember the Sazabi being part of it, and then some crazy mobile suits. But the animation quality was top notch. I mean, no one can deny that. But for the most part, I barely remember the whole story because it was so everywhere. I just know that it was about the Sazabi and something after the Char's counterattack events. Other than that, I can't tell you more than that about it because it needed more time to explain and to grow on what it was trying to tell. So yeah, that is my number 6 spot. And it's on the number 6 spot right now because I don't know what to say about it because I don't have much of an opinion, but it's not as bad as the other ones where I have multiple opinions. So it can go either way for me to get on this list. So that's it for the 6th spot. Into the next. So sitting at my number 5 spot, so we're in the top 5 of this list. So the 5th spot belongs to Double Zeta. Double Zeta, as much as it has my favorite characters in there and some of my favorite mobile suits, the story just wasn't there. It tried to ride really hard off of Zeta, and it failed miserably at first. And when I say miserably, it was beyond bad at first. Like, I was expecting a lot more from it, but we had a whole, what's his name? He started with a Y, I can't remember his name, but he was like a pilot in Zeta that was always chasing the Gundam and all the, the Agramar, I think it's called the Agramar. It was always chasing it, and then he started showing up in Double Zeta, and then soon they just forgot about him. He doesn't exist anymore in the series. Char was nowhere to be found, even though we know he doesn't die. Like, nowhere to be found, no hints of him, nothing. And then at that point, it was literally... Upon editing this video, I needed to stop real quick and let you know that I know exactly where Char was. And it's up on screen right now. So he was out promoting burgers and cars. He's too badass to be in the original series at this point in time. All right, back to me talking about the Double Zeta. Captain Bright, being the desperate captain he was like, all right, what's the age limit on this pilot? All right, he's under 15, he's hired. Like, he literally was just like, let's hire a bunch of kids. It was neat and that they got jobs and stuff and they weren't street rats anymore, but he was literally like, I need an age limit, and you know, age limit usually means they need to be above a certain age. Like, are they under 15? Hire all of them. Like, it was bad. I'm sorry, Brett, you got some of the worst stick on that one, but it got really good towards the end, but due to the whole beginning of it and really thinking about it now, it as a whole just does not, it's not great. It's not great. It's in the middle of this list for a damn reason. It's not great. So, maybe if they did oh yeah, and I can also tell that it's not great because they didn't even try to dub it. They didn't even try to do a compilation movie of it like they did with Zeta and the original. They didn't even attempt any of that shit. Also, we had Camille doing fucking, what do you call, telekinesis at one point, or telecommunication. He literally was a walkie-talkie, and it was just out of nowhere, too. I mean, it was during a cool scene. It's probably one of the coolest scenes. When I get to the actual scene list, that's probably... I'm debating if that goes on there or not, so you'll see that whenever I get there. So yeah, that's going to be Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam as my number 5th spot. Alright, and sitting at number 4. Number 4, wow, I'm getting through this list pretty quickly, I think. I'm trying to make it quick to where it doesn't take an hour for anyone to watch it. So, number 4 on this list is going to be actually Gundam Age. Mobile Suit Gundam Age, woo! This series right here suffered from the complete opposite thing that I rated Turn A for, and that I also... It's the same with Twilight Axis. Both of these series needed to be longer in some aspects. Not as much as Twilight Axis, this series, but like each of the individual different arcs should have been like a 25 episode series. Not like a season, and then move to the next season. Because it felt like they were trying to speedrun the Universal Century the whole damn time, or just multiple different Gundam series at the same time. And yeah, there were cool moments, there were sad moments, there were neat moments, but it was so drowned out by how quickly they were trying to do it. Like, for the first like 12 to 14 episodes, it was one pilot, being the Flint, and then the next it switched to the Sun. It didn't even give any context to it. He was just a pissed off child, and the next one he's a pissed off adult that wants to genocide an entire race, and now his son's coming into it. Then the next one, the son's son wants to save the entire race, while the grandpa's still sitting there fucking wanting to drop a nuke on it. Like, it just rushed so fast through the series, and I think if it was extended much, it could have been a lot better. Not saying it needed to be a 200, One Piece 1,000 episode series, but maybe adding it, about 10 episodes to each of the different arcs to really just expand them and really tell the story a little bit better. That's just what I'm getting at with Age. So it drowned it out because it was so quick. And honestly, most of the mobile suits were fair at best. The main characters were fair at best, but I think they just didn't have the growth time they needed in that short little span of it. And whenever they did try to give them growth, they didn't feel good at the end. Like the reward just did not feel great for them. So I don't know how much more I can rant on Age, because Age is just the mobile suits, like the Age 1 is cool, the Age 2 is cool, they're all neat. Yeah, positives. I don't know what else to say about this series, so that's my number 4 spot for this list right here. Let's go and get into the next one. Alright, and we're getting into the big 3 of my, hated lists. These are actually somewhat hated. And the first one's gonna give me the most hate, personally. I don't know how many people are gonna view this video, because I'm not the biggest creator on the internet, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a few comments saying why. Simply why. So, number 3 spot is gonna be Mobile Suit Gundam, the original. Not Origins, the 1979 Gundam. This series right here, oh my god, as iconic as it is, having, started the entire craze itself, it was long and had hardly any story for how long it was. Like, this is one of those series they could have honestly shrunk down to about 20 episodes, which is why I'm glad they did the compilation videos, but I'm a completionist, so I had to watch the whole series, because this is, like I stated with my Zeta one, this series didn't just need it required a single interaction between a fight between mobile suits or ships to even get 10 seconds of story. Like, it required it. Without that, there was nothing else going on the ship other than Fabo's titties. Like, it was about it. And even then, it was 1979 anime art style animation. I'm not even gonna, I will go on it. The frame rate was literally 1 frame per second. Like, he would do a punch, and instead of a nice, fluid punch, it would be punch here, and then the next frame would be like right here, and the next one would be hitting its face. Like, there would be no in between frames. So it just was awful. And I know, again, people are gonna be like, it's old, it's this, I get it, but it's still so bad, and it's only good because it was the original starting of the series, and I debated even putting it far on this list because of that, only because of that. The voice acting, if you watch the first 3 episodes of it, was great. The audio quality was god-awful. Like, mine, I don't even have the best here, and I think this is honestly better than, like, 1,000 times better than what they had for that audio quality. Because every time Fabo would shout, it would be like me grabbing this mic and deep-throating it. It would just be a distorted mess of gargleness the whole damn time. So yes, number 3 spot I think is a fair for this because it is being fought against all the other Gundam series. Like, it's literally punch matching him in a match trying to, get to that spot for me. And I just can't put it any lower or higher. So yeah, that's my number 3 spot. Alright, time for my number 2 spot. This spot right here was honestly an easy spot. Honestly, like, I'm gonna be real with you guys. This one took the cake 100% for number 2. And that's going to be, and I'm probably, again, going to get just flamed in the comments. All the American audiences are literally going to find my apartment right now. Take a fucking 5-hour trip, 10-hour trip, however long it takes to get here. You're going to find me, drag me, and kick me off a cliff. Because I'm about to say it. Gundam Wing is the 2nd worst Gundam series in the entire Gundam franchise. I don't care what you guys say. The story was absolutely horrendous at times. The characters went in totally random directions. Our main character didn't even have a moment of character growth, and even if he did, it was so unnoticeable that I had to sit there and pick it apart with a group of people. Like, we have a local build group that builds Gunpla, and we had to pick it apart for, like, actually, they didn't pick it apart, but I was like at a convention, and we tried to pick it apart and see what he actually had growth of. So our main character, Hiro, went from, I want to kill you, from episode 1 to episode 52, in episode 50 going, I want to kill you like 1% less. There was no other growth in him at all. Like, even though he had moments in the series, they did not reflect it on his character at all. It felt like they just did a poor job of that. And there were times whenever, like, it just did not make sense. Tro losing his memory just randomly. They needed just plot points, it felt like. It was dreadful. Then the Epion and the Wing fight. It was a cool fight for some parts, but it felt so drawn out and just repetitive. So I can't. I just can't with this series. I don't know. I'm sorry. There's so much I can rant about. The main female character was no better. Rachel, I can't remember her name. Rachel, I don't remember. She's so unmemorable in terms of name. The only thing I remember her for is being a spoiled rotten brat that just goes after the edgy type. So Hiro, if you want me to give you a good analogy, he is literally they wanted him to be edgy for the simple fact of being edgy, and they wanted a female to be just as edgy, and so they put them in the same goddamn series. And so neither of them were good characters. The best characters of that was actually Troa, Quatre, and even Duel. Those 3 characters. If they would have made them main characters, this may have made a different list, because those 3 were actually not the worst characters. They were actually somewhat decent. But due to the fact that Hiro was our main character, it drops this thing so hard. Like, it's bad. So, that is my number 2 spot on this list right here, Gundam Wing. Now let's get into my number 1. Alright, I think everybody can agree on my number 1 here, so let's go and get into my number 1. That's going to be Gundam Rikunagusta, the fuck you want to call this series. It's so bad the name's even hard to pronounce. So, Rico and G. We're just going to leave it at that. So, Rico and G is number 1 for multiple reasons. 1, was there even a story? 2, did the characters even matter? 3, the fuck happened with the actual, like, story? 4, the best character of the whole entire series was a goddamn fish in a fucking ball. 5, I don't know what else to think. I just don't have another opinion. I honestly just started building Gunpla because I didn't really, it was uninteresting. Um, yeah, literally your best character is a goddamn fish in a fishbowl. Like, and most people are like, oh, that can't be bad. Like One Piece, some have talking fish, and other series have talking. This fish didn't even say a goddamn line. It's a literal fish in a fucking ball, like a hamster ball, and it was the best character in the series. That tells you how well written each of these characters are. They felt like they were doing ass pulls, and I think it's because somebody was telling me they had 7 writers for this series. Well, each of you 7 writers need to stop fucking writing and get new jobs. Because, I mean, at least a decent writer would at least come in and be like, okay, this is what was going on in the past. We can move it in this direction and try to expand on that. No, they went, okay, that was happening in the past, but fuck that. We're going to go in this direction. Literally, the only thing good about this series, the second thing that's good about this series, is the G Savior. The mobile suit was fantastic, looked great. Can't argue with that. But where's the story? Where's the plot? Who the fuck was the main character? Like, I don't even know who that was. Was it the cheerleaders? I guess there were cheerleaders, right? Insert question mark. Right? There's a story about a prince and a princess, brother and sister. I guess. Who was the enemy? I don't even know who the enemy was. Because another thing, there was one point whenever these people would all get together and they were helping each other and they were fighting. They were in different factions, but they were still helping each other. And then, like a scene later, one of them wanted everybody, all the other ones wanted that faction dead. And then it switched. And then it switched again. And who's the enemy? Seriously, answer me this question. Who the fuck was the actual enemy of this? The fish? I'm pretty sure that fish would have destroyed all the fleets. Like, that thing would have owned the G-Savior. Because that fish was literally the most OP character in the series. And it did nothing! So, yeah, that's my frustration. Honestly, this series right here, if the U.S. military wanted another torture technique, just take this series, strap a person in a chair, and make them watch it. Because honestly, it was torture. This was hard to get through. But I did it for the actual content, plus the fact that I wanted to say that I watched everything else because I'm a completionist, and that's just mentally how I work. That's why my shelves are completely filled with Gunpla at this point, to the point that I might need a new apartment. Because I like to complete series, and whenever you put a number on a box, I want everything in that box series. Anyway, though, that's gonna be it for this video here. I'm sorry if your favorite made it to my top worst, but these are my opinions and mine only. So leave those comments down below and share your worst Gundam series in the comments down below. And also, if you haven't yet, please slash that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in the next.